Good evening. My name is Kennea. I'm the Executive Manager of Artistic Planning here at the WASO. Thank you for staying for this post-concert talk. This wonderful gentleman on my right is a very good friend of mine and a very good friend of the West Australian Symphony Orchestra. This is James Ledger. Please give him another round of applause. Who's your favourite Beatle?
That is a... look, I guess it would be John Lennon.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
I think he was the most creative in a way that I guess I'm not. He was very much just he thought out of differently to the rest of us, and his gift of text and lyrics is also quite remarkable. Paul McCartney I admire greatly. He's a fantastic musician, he's a fantastic bass player, and he's a fantastic songwriter. I mean, imagine being in a band where there's Lennon and McCartney. It's just, it was like a perfect storm, the combination of the Beatles. And also when they met George Martin, their producer, I think the combination of those four plus him really made this, as I say, perfect storm that sort of changed popular culture.
And I've got to disagree with you on one point. You said that John was kind of the composer or the musical thinker that you're not, or words to that effect. He sort of thinks outside the box. He was the one who pushed all the boundaries. But I actually think that's very much what you do, because for a start, I probably wouldn't have ever thought of putting a work together, taking on board Anton, Webern and John Lennon, and then creating that incredible kaleidoscopic sound world that you create. I mean, for me, the merging of early 20th century, sort of almost, as you said, the distillation of romanticism and creative pop, and then your own James Ledger sound world, that's an incredibly creative thing to do.
That's not a question.
It's not, but I'm waiting for your response anyway.
Well, thank you very much. The idea had this. There's always been this for me in classical music. This kind of, well, not a war, but at least a divide between what we call pop music and what we call classical music, and that sort of happened in the 20th century. You could, if you wanted to, you could blame Schoenberg for that in a way, but it was also when recorded sound became, commercial and available to everyone, that this great divide occurred. And I've always kind of been frustrated at the fact that, if you put sort of pop references or you're influenced by pop music, you're not taken seriously, and if you write only classical music, you're too serious. So it's, I like the fact that you have all this music available to us, and you can absorb it from anywhere you like. And so the fact that these guys were both shot to death was just, superficially what relates them, I suppose. But it was a great opportunity to bring these two streams of music together in the same piece, and it was just so tantalising a thing to do. I couldn't resist.
I'm glad you didn't resist. Are you ever surprised by, as you said, you've got this perfect piece in your head, you try and get it down on paper or, into a computer system if you're using MIDI, or are you ever surprised by what comes out of the first rehearsal? I remember a little video interview with another great composer, John Adams. He said that the first rehearsal for any composer is the most nerve-wracking and terrifying experience, because even if you have a great conductor like we do this evening and a great orchestra like we do this evening, it's suddenly out of your hands and it takes on its own life, and you can sit there and fret and worry, but it's too late, it's gone. But the surprising thing is when what you didn't expect to work, or it was a different sound, and suddenly it's...
Oh, that happens all the time, but there's a strong argument for the composer not attending the first rehearsal, because everyone's finding their way. The orchestra are playing it for the first time, no one's heard it together. You've got 80 people, trying to work out where things fit and how it relates to the people sitting around them and all that. And so it really is, to have the composer there can be a bit, work against you, because they want to sort it out for themselves. Sure, come to the second rehearsal and so on. And I had to go to the first rehearsal this week because I was recording the samples that were played back in tonight's piece. So the first rehearsal was on Wednesday evening, and I must admit it's been an incredible 48 hours. I left that rehearsal going, oh, lordy, 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 what am I going to do now? I was quite not a happy camper. But I have to say
that's why I didn't attend the first rehearsal, thinking this may be the reaction.
You know, and I've said it to myself a billion times, do not go to the first rehearsal. There's good reasons not to do that. But there are surprises, you know, you think, gee, that works so much better than... And then you think, oh my God, I'll need to have a look at that. But why doesn't that work? Sometimes the most straightforward things on the page that you think will work often are the things that need to be rehearsed and looked at, and the things that you think, well, they'll never get through that in the first run through, often they do, and it's always, you know, better than you imagine. So yeah, look, I did go to the first rehearsal because I sort of had to, but yeah, it's been a complete turnaround. I was sitting on the edge of my seat tonight. I was thinking today that this is the 10th premiere of mine that WASO have given, and probably about the 15th different piece that they've played over the last 10 years or so. And, you know, that's quite a good... We obviously have, by now, built up this rapport. You know, in fact, I'm probably part of the furniture down there as far as, you know, I'm so familiar. And I think there's a real sense of, oh, this is one of Jim Ledger's pieces. We know what to expect. There'll be something that'll annoy me. I'll have to come in on a high, low note, very quiet, a high, soft note, and you know, there's all this sort of stuff. But tonight was just one of the most thrilling first performances I've ever had. It was just everything just came together. The electronics came together, which was a miracle in itself when mixing electronics with acoustic instruments. And so I was just, I don't normally get to be emotional and happy. I'm normally quite happy being kind of, you know, but I raised a smile tonight.
Well, look, so did we, because I think it was a terrific, terrific piece. And when you said you're part of the furniture...
That wasn't meant to sound, you know...
I was thinking more part of the family.
It was harmonica. Someone came up to me and asked if it was a recording of a harmonica, but no, it was a real harmonica, and that was, again, a nod to Lennon and the early Beatle songs where he played the harmonica. And I like the idea of that ending chorale section being my sort of input to the you know, hearing that John Lennon got shot actually. It's one of those things where you remember where you were. If you're old enough to remember where you were, you remember where you were when you heard that news. And when I was writing this piece, I became kind of angry at this whole him being murdered. It just made me get quite angry and sad. It was a funny thing. So this little lonely harmonica at the end is meant to be, you know, what it sounded like, a lonely harmonica. Yeah. Played by the bass clarinetist.
Do you get feedback from your musicians when they first practice it, you know, first meet up with it?
Yeah, you do. It's funny, that kind of thing, though, because they're not going to, if they hate the piece, they're not going to come up to you and tell you that you hate it. So you never quite tell you that they hate it. So you're never quite sure exactly where things are. But I was overjoyed with the reception. When I went backstage, I gave the whole orchestra a group hug. Not really, but I wanted to. And again, I'm not that kind of guy. So, yeah, they do give you feedback. Particularly, it's great to get feedback from if you've written a part that could be done better. So they'll say, look, this isn't really happening in this register at this time and you can't hear it, so why don't we do this? And so, yeah, it's great to get a clarinetist's point of view of the clarinet part and so on.
Well, back in 1970-something, there was supposed to be a meeting between John Lennon and Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, which didn't eventuate. But at least tonight we've got John Lennon and Webern together in a fantastic piece. Can you please give a big round of applause to James Ledger?
Thank you.